Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Liz. It's great to see everybody this morning. Thank you so much for coming. This is such a special day to have so many smart people who have memories that go all the way back to the 1940s. We are, of course, honored to have Governor William Winter and Elise here with us, the editor from 1943 or 44, and you're going to hear from him tonight. Otherwise, he'd be on this panel with us. We have every decade represented in this room, going back to the 40s. And so what a special time for memories. What we're going to try to do this morning is have three panels of experts. You're all experts, but have people share some of their memories, not just look backwards, but look forwards as well. And I'm going to ask a few questions just to get things started, but then I'm going to look to all of you as well to ask a question or even make an observation. Need this? Need to speak into this? Okay, thanks. So I have two microphones now. I wanted to get started by saying the obvious, that Ole Miss is such a special place, and the reason the Daily Mississippian, and then the Daily Mississippian, has been able to survive and thrive for 100 years is I think it's done a particularly good job through its editors and reporters of capturing the spirit of Ole Miss and its environment. The highs and the lows, the substantive and the silly. And I was looking at some of the front pages in the book that Pat Thompson did such a good job of putting together. Let's give her a hand for that book. I ran across a front page from July of 1962. And just consider this front page. There were two main headlines on that page one. The first main headline was, "William Faulkner is dead." And then below that, the second biggest headline on the page, "Baton Twirling Institute is set." Now, only at Ole Miss and in Oxford could you have that juxtaposition and it not be considered unusual. And so we have the editors of the Daily Mississippian to thank for that, and we're going to now get into some discussion with them. We're going to start with Jim Autry, who was the editor here in 50s. What year was it? 54, 55. Jim is our most prolific editor. He's produced 10 books. He's been an editor of a big-time magazine, then was a corporate executive. He was the president of the magazine and book division of Meredith Corporation. He's written poems. He's a poet. He's a speaker, a consultant. So he's used both sides of his brain, which not many journalists are able to do. But before I start with Jim, I was going through some of the things that he has written, and I thought, well, one of the poems that he wrote in his book, Love and Profit, The Art of Caring Leadership, poem's called Threads, and I thought it was a great way to introduce this morning, and it really captures what I think will be the essence of this reunion. And these are the closing lines of his poem, Threads. Listen, in every office, you hear the threads of love and joy and fear and guilt, the cries for celebration and reassurance. And somehow you know that connecting those threads is what you're supposed to do, and business takes care of itself. It's beautiful lines. And so today we're going to look at those threads and see how they connect. So by starting with Jim, Jim, I wanted to start, well, first of all, I want to recognize the former Lieutenant Governor of Iowa, the wife of Jim Autry, Sally Peterson. Sally, we're glad you're here. Jim, more than most of us, you have studied this whole issue of work and retirement and spiritual side, the business side. You've given some thought to it. Tell us, from all of that, where we sit now at the 100th anniversary of the Daily Mississippian, well, what do you know now that you didn't know when you were a mere editor of the Mississippian, in that sense?
I think it starts with the realization I came to, and tell me if I'm not speaking loud enough, the realization I came to and that is that, thank you, and that is that not just business, but the whole world of work is about people. It's about among, with, for people. And we tend to look at the technical side of things in dealing with our organization. But organizational life operates because of people and for people. So once we lose focus on that and I think begin to look at technical things, and I don't mean technology, I mean the technical things of running our organizations. Once we sink into the sort of psychobabble of organizational management, once we get sunk in believing that our strategic planning is the main thing we're supposed to do, or you know, making the bottom line is the main thing we're supposed to do. And I had to do that, I had to do all of it. But what you realize is that none of it happens without people. So whether you're in management or you're just in the organization, what you do in nurturing your fellow persons within that organization, what you do in helping them succeed, making and realizing that if they succeed, you succeed, because we succeed together. I guess I've learned that more intensely and than I ever knew when I was editor of the Mississippian. I ever thought I would know, because I thought it was all about learning to do journalism.
So Jim, let's look ahead. You ran a big-time magazine company. Is there a future for magazines now as print?
I think there's more of a future for big magazines than there is for big newspapers, but I think that magazines have so far done a very good job of adapting to the internet technologies, and they are publishing online and selling their advertising in combination with what's printed online. A lot of them are going to go away. See much future for news magazines, but those special interest lifestyle magazines that are aimed at helping people create a better life for themselves or their family or their friends, I don't think those are going to go away. And I think if I look way ahead, it could very well be that the generation now that's coming into what we would have traditionally said as the demography of readership are not going to be, maybe it may not be reading those magazines. It may all be electronic. But I don't see that for a decade.
Okay. That's good insight. I'm sure we'll talk about that some more with some of our younger panelists as well. I'd like to switch.